Yes, good evening, Mr. Keshe.
Good evening.
Let's just start straight away.
Yes.
If I could ask you to introduce yourself. You were the son of an X-ray engineer, and you graduated from Queen Mary College.
We cannot hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly, yes, no problem.
Okay.
First of all, I would like to say hello to you people at Imperial College. I have a lot of good memories from the college. I spent a lot of nights sleeping on the sofas and chairs in that university years ago. First of all, I come, as you know, from Iran. My background is that through the work of my father as a X-ray engineer with Philips International in Iran in the medical sector, I was brought into the environment of radiation and the world of X-rays and that kind of equipment very early in my life. So the question for me from the beginning was, a lot of things don't make sense in what I was told and how the systems were working. And to answer my own questions, I came to England as there was the pattern in those days. I went to Barnet College in north of London, and then did the first diploma in Manchester, and then I graduated from Queen Mary College as a nuclear engineer, specialized in design of nuclear reactors. And so from the beginning I had an argument with my professors and my teachers in the university that the whole nuclear industry is upside down. It's not working the way the universe works. So the advice from my personal tutor, Dr. Shaw, was, Mehran, do your work, get out and try to prove it. Here there is no room for new intelligence. So I stopped the work with the British nuclear fuel, and I set out to develop a new technology, the way the universe works, not the way it's being imagined and measured. So the consequence has been 20 years of financing personally research, and when I knew I have developed a final position in achieving gravitational magnetic fields, I stopped my commercial activities, and my full-time life has been for past nearly 12 years totally in developing and finalizing the stages of the system which flies and lives and operates the same as the universe does.
Fantastic. Can you tell us, basically, in a nutshell... Sorry, I apologize. Could you tell us, just briefly, your understanding of matter and how the classical model is incorrect?
The classical model is a lot of imagination. In the universe, for example, when we can't understand them, micro and macro, you can go from one to another. The scientists have made the plasma, or the structure of the plasma, the holy grails of physics. So because nobody can see it, they can imagine and say whatever they like. And this is the problem with the present physics. A lot of scientists have to understand in a new way that because the universe works by interaction of magnetic fields, it's only the quantity in the entity which matters. What does this mean? It means if you cannot understand the structure of the plasma of a proton, go a step further up in a bigger scale, because the operation is exactly the same. So you look at the plasma of the solar system. Solar system is a plasma, the same function, the same operation as the plasma of the universe, and the same operation as plasma of a proton. And as we have explained in our books, even electron is a plasma. And it's very easy in my demonstrations. I explain in a simple way how electron is a plasma as well. So when you have a plasma of a proton, you can't understand it, go one level higher. A plasma of a solar system. You have a source, we call it the star, we call it the sun. Then this entity releases two things, not one thing which we have assumed up to now. We actually assume both of them, but we never relate them together. The system, the solar system, the sun, radiates magnetic field at the same time as gravitational field. So the entity possesses two things, gravity and magnetic field at the same time. So if you reduce the amount, the quantity, then you see the same thing in the plasma of a proton. If you increase it higher, you see the same thing in the plasma of the universe. The problem has been in the world of physics. We discovered and we came up with different names for the same thing over a long period of time. What does this mean? In nuclear physics, we call the sun the antimatter. In the structure of geophysics or astrophysics, we call the center, the same source, the star or the sun. And in a larger quantity of the same entities, for the universe or galaxies, we call the same source the black hole. So in reality, if we understand there is a source, the source radiates two magnetic fields. One we call gravitational magnetic field, and one we call the magnetic with a bigger magnetic, which is a shielding and protection. So one pushes away and gravity pulls in. So when you have an entity like Earth, which creates its own gravitational magnetic field, and the Sun, which creates its own gravitational magnetic field, the interaction of four field forces decides the position of the Earth in respect to the Sun. Nothing else. We don't have a control room on Earth. We don't have wings on Earth. We don't have jet propulsion and rockets on Earth to dictate the position and the speed of the Earth in its solar system. So what is the plasma? Plasma is a source which radiates out magnetic and gravitational field, what we call magravs. And where this gravitational magnetic fields, through its strength, can create an atmosphere or a sphere, we call this the boundary, that magnetic field, gravitational field boundary, a plasma. So you have a source radiating gravitational magnetic field, and the span where these field forces can operate is called a plasma.
If I can just sorry, carry on.
So in a way, what you call antimatter is a source. It's become fashionable now, they call it dark matter and dark energy. This is totally nonsense. The reason that we see a dark environment, like from the sun to the earth, is that because magnetic and gravitational fields radiate in the same direction. So when gravitational field and magnetic fields rub and interact, or they cut each other, the residual leftover of the interaction is what we call light. The simple way of this is you have the sun releases gravitational magnetic fields. When these gravitational magnetic fields interact with the gravitational magnetic field of the earth, it's like rubbing the hand, as I usually say. These four forces, to pull and to push, releases, due to friction, magnetic field residuals, what we see as the daylight. So on the backside of the earth, where there is no magnetic field and gravitational field interaction from the sun, we see the darkness because there is no residual. So the dark matter, dark energy, is actually magnetic field, gravitational fields in motion from the sun to the earth. You take the earth out to the next planet. So Dark energy and dark matter, we call it the transition because it takes from the source the time it transmits itself to the place where it manifests itself. And then at the point when the energy becomes tangible, visible, physically detectable by us according to, again, gravitational magnetic field of our own amino acid, then at that point things become matter, becomes tangible. So you have a source, you have a transition time, and when things manifest itself, then it becomes matter. So what we say, this, what you call it, up and down quarks and these things, this is all a lot of nonsense. And so if the plasma of a proton is too small to understand, go to the larger scale, call it the plasma of the solar system. There cannot be any difference. So it's very easy. You call it the principal matter of the plasma of a proton. We know you're talking about the center. We call the principal plasma source of the solar system. We know you're talking about the sun. You speak about the principal, what do you call it, the source of a galaxy or a universe, and we call this black hole. And even the black hole has a reason. I've explained in the book why it appears to be as black. It's the same as why it appears to be dark between the Earth and the Sun. So this theory of up and down quarks has been there because we didn't understand it. Now we have a better understanding and we see the reality. So we explain it. There is a very big problem with what we have proposed, is that a lot of physics, especially nuclear physics, has been the grandfather stories on the bedside. Now we put orders into physics, and we haven't done anything wrong. We just put another brick in the structure of the wall of the science. And then now we see a lot of people recently, especially in the past few weeks, we've seen another American scientist has come up with the same thing in a different version. And it's got a huge backing of the American organizations to prove what we say is correct, and it shows it as an active plasma on the videos which are releasing. So you have a source. Source releases two things, gravity and magnetic field, where this field, the boundary of the field is, one, due to the strength of the source itself, and secondly, through the strength of the environmental magnetic gravitational field, what is around it, decides the size of this plasma. So now you can play God's game.
And the consequences of what you've just said, from what I've understood it, is that now with travel faster than light is possible. Is that so?
Yes. You have to go back again to understand the roots of the science. First of all, the speed of light is the maximum speed of travel on the matter strength. Once you go beyond our detection, decides the point of the matter strength. Once you go beyond it, because don't forget, magnetic gravitational field of the sun, when it's released from the surface, is very strong. Where they lose enough of their strength, at a certain point they become tangible, detectable. So before it becomes tangible or becomes light, what we call light, the field had much more strength and it was traveling at higher speed. So now we learn how to get closer to the source to utilize the stronger fields. So now the speed of travel is by the factor, not by times. You travel by factor of 1, factor of 2, depending where you position yourself. If it's very hard to understand, it's very simple. You take the sun, the closer you come to the sun, the stronger the fields are. So, but these fields, what we see, are all on the strength of the principal strength. Some of it are. So you decide where you want to be, you choose that magnetic field, and depends that magnetic gravitational field strength, how much is faster than the speed of light in the matter environment of the human detection, then any speed is possible. And this has been tested.
You've already, from what I gather, created some craft which have the ability to travel at very high speeds. And I gather that you said that Mach 35 travel within the Earth's atmosphere even is conceivable now. Is that correct?
The thing is, when over Mach 35, you fall out of the atmosphere due to the curvature and the speed of control. Let me explain to you something very simple. The speed is the restriction of the state of mind. I don't know if you can see this magnet. If I can bring it very
Sure.
close to you.
Yep, we can see it.
This magnet is exactly how spherical conditions are. This is like Earth, this is like Sun. We have a state of mind as a magnet, as a bar. This is a bar. If we bring our mentality and understanding to the magnet as a sphere like the universe is, like the stars, we don't see any rectangular objects in the universe. All the objects are spherical. Sun is spherical, atom is spherical, proton is spherical, every shape. The Earth is spherical due to the motion of the magnetic fields. As they come out of one end, they reduce. As they reduce the strength, the gravitational magnetic field of the center of the system pulls the field in, so they go back into it and they absorb more and they come back. If this is, let's say, the moon, and I have a craft, let's say if you can see this little magnet,
Sure.
if you can see, when I come close for you to see, you don't need to burn fuel to get attracted. You see, this is all it is. That's why the space agency space program has changed. Up to now, we were used to burning fuel to attain position and speed. Now, we can create the same situation. If that was very hard for you to see, I'll show this with another magnet, which is very easy for you to observe, is you play with the magnets all the time, but we never considered it. You create the magnetic field of gravitation of the position of destination. There is no control in the speed anymore. This is what NASA has just recently come to understand. The game is over. So you can go at any speed to Mars, to Moon, as long as you can create a system which can create two things: gravity and a magnetic field. One of the things which has been the biggest problem with the Keshe Foundation and what we proposed is, up to now we never understood the concept behind gravity. Now we understand. And actually gravity is the word which comes from English language. Gravitation, to gravitate, to go closer. When you have two dissimilar points, they gravitate. One pulls the other one in, and they gravitate. And when you have two dissimilar points, this is the magnetic field, this is the space of protection. If you really find, in a simple English language, the concept why the gravity has become, up to now, the holy grail of physics, has been that due to our ancestors, we take everything as north and south. If you redefine the polarity as an exit and an entry, not the north and south, why do we have two sides which are dissimilar attracting? What magnetic field comes out of one has to go to the other one. So it's easy, it's continuity. When you have two dissimilar poles, let's say you have two exit poles, it's like having a traffic jam. The fields, they both come out, they have to find a position that the fields can move. So they create that distance that accommodates the motion of the fields. Doesn't matter which end you do, two entries the same, two exits the same. Two exits create a slightly bigger gap between them than the two entries, because the two entries have already lost some of the magnetic field strength. This is why we see higher temperature on the northern section of the Earth or on the north pole of the Sun. Because when the fields come out of the entity, they are much stronger. And by the time they interact with other fields within their environment and around the matter, by the time they go, they lost some of their strength. So now for the first time we can even explain why the temperature on the North Poles are slightly higher than the South Pole. Because magnetic field coming out are stronger slightly than when they go in. So if we put this what I call grandfather's stories aside and understand physics the way they are, we haven't discovered in so many ways anything new. The people around me continuously tell me, you keep on saying this. Because all we've done, now we understand gravity and a magnetic field is created by the interaction of the same fields. So gravity is interaction of entry and exit, and magnetic, what we call atmosphere, is the repulsion, or the gap the fields need to protect themselves. In a way, if now we understand that the gravity and magnetic field are of the interaction of two different fields upon each other, and now that we understand plasmas are a creation of the dynamic magnetic field, we create two separate environments, and in two separate environments, we create gravitational magnetic field in the plasma level, and then when they interact, we create an atmosphere and we create a gravitational field, and we do exactly what the Earth does or what the Sun does. So there is nothing new. We lived with it, but we never understood it. Now for the first time, we understand that gravity is the interaction, attraction of the two opposite poles in a plasma level, not in a matter level.
So basically, with the old system, if I can just paraphrase, one would need huge amounts of fuel to carry a very small payload, but with the new understanding, a very tiny amount of fuel can carry a much larger payload. Is that correct?
Yes, look at the Earth. Earth's central core is very tiny to amount of the mass which is carrying. Because now the payload is become irrelevant. Once you create a field which can cross the boundary of your system, whatever is in that system is irrelevant how much it weighs and how big it is and how small it is. You can have in that environment water, or you can put mercury, you can put lead, or you can put fresh air. The whole thing is the mass becomes irrelevant in respect to its outside environment. What the field can hold and what the field can protect, what we call atmosphere, within the structure of its plasma, this is what it can carry. So payloads become irrelevant, and this is one of the interesting we see. So, and in so many ways, we restricted our own intelligence to fit our grandfather's knowledge of physics. Now we are freed the mind from restriction of what we've been forced to accept, and we see the things we do. We brought the knowledge into space, we brought the knowledge into energy, we have brought the knowledge into seeds production and into medicals, and as where I'm giving you the presentation is the Keshe Foundation Center, where we run with a license from the Belgian authorities because they've seen how we operate and they've seen the work of our health for the past 4 or 5 years. They offered us, the organization who are responsible, a license to carry on further, and we see patients from all over the world, literally from all 4 corners of the world. People walk into this office every Monday. So it's nothing new. It's just understanding the process, the way the universe works, not the way our great-grandfathers, our ancestors, when they came out of the caves, they looked at the birds and that was their ambition, to fly like the bird. We got that bird, we call it aeroplanes. We stuck 2 jets on it and we call it jet planes, and then we had our Chinese friends who came up with a firework, and that firework in a bigger scale now is known as a propulsion game. It's the same thing as what Genghis Khan did in Iran hundreds of years ago, using the firework to break through the barriers. Now we understand the process of the motion of the universe, and our system copies that. So we've gone in intelligence 1 level higher. Then you understand, as you create a stronger magnetic field interactions between the different layers of plasma or different part of the reactor, then you match to the environment which you're traveling. So you can go by a factor of 2, 3 times the speed of light. The beauty with this technology as we see it now is that because you create a same situation, same condition as Earth, you can create a 1G the natural way. So in your environment of reactor, within a space of your system, you can create 1G the way we have on Earth. On Earth, we have a certain position which 1G, and we live comfortably, we walk comfortably. And this 1G can be created in with use of any system, as long as you can control its gravitational magnetic field. So when this game of astronauts getting into a spaceship, going for training for years, and being weightlessness is over, it's finished, it's done with. Because we do not get trained to go to Heathrow Airport, to go to New York, to get on a jet line. Because gravitational magnetic field, or we call 1G, is created by pressure in the cabin. Now we have learned how to create 1G naturally the way our planet does it for ourselves. So from now on, all of you in that auditorium, you're all astronauts. The thing is, we always let ourselves down. I made a presentation in Italy last December, a month ago, and I put I have a picture of the sun. And I said, at this moment, let's consider, and I have a picture of the 3 dimension of the Earth. I said, look, this is the sun, and this is the Earth. Now we are in winter time, we are here. And we look across the space and we say, that's the space. We would like to be in space. Just take yourself, another 6 months you are here. So the space was there where you were 6 months ago. So we've all been astronauts. We've all been in the space. We ignored our own creation. So now we learn to do the same thing, and we'll replicate the same technology as the universe has. And the one thing is, we are just the beginning of this ladder. And this ladder has 1,000 steps to get to the end of it. And as I always say, we're just crawling to get our hands on the first platform. It needs scientists to put this dogma of what they were talk about, to protect their degrees and PhDs and professorships, and work the way we start working with Italian scientists in a very rapid way. And you will see what is coming out. As you know, we are well known in who and which government are collaborating.
How many countries now have you given your USB stick, as you say? And
at the moment, there are 15, but there is a plan through the governments who have received it. Within the next 2 months, will be at least double that. But the 15 nations which have received it cover 65% of the world population.
Wow.
As you know, on the 21st of April last year, we had the first ambassadorial presentation here in our center, where I'm talking to you from, and a number of ambassadors came. And after the 21st, I received a direct decree by His Excellency President Obama against my foundation on what we showed to the ambassador this technology is going to do. I wrote an open letter, email on my forum, since the President of the United States made a gagging order for scientists. And as you know, it's well documented on our forum, on the 6th of November, on the American election day, after 3:45, when the American presidential office knew they won the election, they were about to win, we received a request from the American government ambassador that they would like to meet and have the access to the technology on the USB key. And we met with them on the 15th of December by the request of the American government. We handed over the technology to the American government, and we know it was immediately transferred to NASA for further analysis. But something very interesting, NASA, I have communication, hard copy documents. We've been negotiating with NASA since 1985. The NASA always told me that the boys at the top always told me the problem we have, Mehran, is how we're going to write off 7,000 jobs in propulsion lab. This is the problem. Now the problem is the technology is under a few nations, and as you know, a few scientists around the world are duplicating through the patents. So the cat is out of the bag. We are out. It doesn't count by nations. As you know, certain nations have already shown the power of the technology. And we have shown this operation through health here. People who come here paralyzed for 5-10 years in a wheelchair. If you came to the presentation or opening day of the foundation, people who've been on a wheelchair for 5 years with MS dying, now they walk, now they can help themselves, and they start living near normal life. So it's not just, we are not just an energy organization. Keshe Foundation is a spaceship program organization. A space program is rocket propulsion and weightlessness. A spaceship program is magnetic gravitational system with full control over the gravity and the normal life as we live on Earth. So as a spaceship program organization like NASA, when you put people in the space, they're worse than babies. So we have to look after for their food, their health, their energy, and everything else. So like any other spaceship program, that's what we do. So, but we have enough confidence that we put our findings in open, allow people to come from all over the world to test our medical systems. And if our system doesn't work, it doesn't mean it's wrong. It means we haven't found the gravitational magnetic field which has created that disease. So in a space when I have a new disease, I don't need to come back all the way to pharmaceuticals. Can you find out what it is for 10,000, God knows, volunteers to do the clinical trial? You find the gravitational magnetic field at the strength of the disease, and you find out what is done to the body and you reverse it. And that's all we do here. It's a new way of thinking, a new way of working, and this adds assets to pharmaceuticals. If pharmaceuticals realize what we develop, they will jump on it like mad, because we got used to taking tablets, we got used to taking injections. This is only 56 years old. Now, pharmaceuticals understand the gravitational magnetic field of the plasma of a disease, the way we do, the way we operate, and then you make a system to reverse it, or to allow the body to reverse itself according to its strength. So, in a way, the new health technology is setting software program that is given to the system, which is in a hospital or a chair in the house. We don't have a hospital. All our patients treat themselves at home. So you sell software data according to the gravitational magnetic field. You make more money, you sell more data, and you sell more, systems. So pharmaceuticals make more money out of it if they understood what they are doing. By the way, I know Imperial College has a beautiful biochemistry lab. I spend a lot of times when my friend, my house flatmate used to do his PhD. I don't know if you still have that rolling, lift, which used to be in the building. You had to jump in it. It goes back quite a few years ago. I don't know if that lift system still is in the building.
Yeah, I'd heard about, you said that people were out of wheelchairs and also people with MS and someone who remembered a language. Do you have any sort of evidence of that? You've had a lot of opposition.
It's all videos on our website. Nobody has ever released videos. You know, you go on my website, you see a guy who hasn't walked for 20 years and he does bicycling. And strange enough, the father-in-law of this gentleman is the accountant of the foundation now. And somebody called and says, oh, he was a very good actor. Where did you get him from? Doesn't matter. We passed the point of, we put an MS, the people who come. You see the woman who's been paralyzed with a brain surgery, who can walk, who's been paralyzed in bed. Nobody puts research videos like this on the internet or in public. We are so confident, and we see people who come to us. I'm booked for our health section into the end of the year, and we can take more on. It's just we don't have time. So people who've been there, and most of the people we get on our health come from referral from doctors around the world, who I don't even know them. They come and say, our doctor has sent us here, and you're our only hope. And they walk back. We have found solutions to Alzheimer's. We have cases which is gone. We have found solution to epilepsy through the same process. We have, without a doubt, has finished with the fibromyalgia. Parkinson still has different characteristics we have to understand. MS, we have to understand more of. we are running about 100 different fields of research at the moment in different diseases.
And you've reversed the effects of chemotherapy.
We don't reverse chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is nothing. Chemotherapy is a different field. You have to understand what it does to the body. I have doctors here who have cancers themselves, and they say we will not allow chemotherapy to be used on our own body. And they are doctors themselves, they are medical doctors. Because chemotherapy, for example, what we know from the Canadian research is that if you have a chemo over age of 55, 60, average span life is about 5 to 7 years. 85% of the patients die due to the chemotherapy because it increases the immune system, and most of them die of what do you call it, the smallest infections. And this is what's in the public domain by the research by the Canadian scientists. We understand very easily what research was done by the French scientists who they monitored a large number of thousands of people who came from Haiti to France, and they lived in France for a period of time, and they went back to Haiti, and in that population MS was exactly at the European level. But the Haitians did not have that kind of MS level percentage in them. So we understand what causes part of the MS and what causes part of the MS. But this is for the research universities like you lot, for professors and doctors to put this title on their doors and look at the physics the way it is. I'm sure the breakthrough will be more than what it is now.
So you think by now the opposition that you've had on the internet, some of that and elsewhere where people have tried to discredit what you're doing.
I'm not only scientist. Any scientist who's come up with anything now, we have an internet to criticize. The guy who said the Earth is not round and is not the center of the universe, we know what happened to him. At least I'm still alive. He got hung.
Yep.
So the opposition is normal. If people, the minute anybody says yes and everyone says yes, yes, it's not correct. But on the other hand, a lot of people who make opposition about the Keshe Foundation are paid to do so. We know so much how they are operating. We know who pays them. This is, they have to, we have to be opposed, we have to be asked to explain ourselves, and we do that to the scientists. We do that to the scientists who understand, are not there to protect a name on the door as a professor or a doctor and senior scientist. We collaborate with the scientists in universities, and now we have even started a new direction totally in Europe. Most of the opposition in Belgium to us comes from the people who understood how much money this technology can make, and they wanted it, and we refused. We said this technology belongs to everybody, not to 2 or 3 men in this country. So everything is started by them. We are very open. We start releasing their name. And in past week, I've come across a document which actually brings the whole thing down. Who's behind all these things? We did not ask. We were asked to. We were asked by companies in Canada and in Germany to set up the first factory in Belgium in 2009. They offered us the factory because they knew what we do. And everything is documented. The only problem is this technology is devastating. This technology will bring short-term rapid unemployment, but on the other hand will bring a long-term large number of employment. And at this economical position, as I was told by an American diplomat, we cannot take such a revolution on hand. There will be total chaos. But on the other hand, the chaos is out now. People are replicating it and they're building it. I'm sure very soon, within a matter of weeks, you will see European scientists who will deliver the first energy and the space reactors, the same as the Iranian government has done. It's in the position. I've seen some systems because I get asked to look at them. And European scientists are not very far to do the first, what do you call it, magravity systems.
Could you talk about the fusion reactors that allegedly Iran has? And
I'm not in that business.
okay, how about nuclear? With all the technologies that you have, does Iran need nuclear energy?
Of course, of course. We don't even understand 2% of the nuclear at the heavy level. So since when we are not dictated to be told what we are supposed to understand? Why nuclear has to become exclusivity of certain nations? Why French are doing it? Why French have access to, they're spending millions in fusion? Why Americans doing it? Why other countries are doing it? Because something is very simple. I wrote on my forum, are we enemies or friends? How come American, with the help of Israelis, are killing Iranian nuclear physicists on the heavy scale, on the heavy metals, and they ask for finance and help from the Iranian scientists in the plasma level? Because we developed the plasma technology much more advanced. According to United Nations, Iranian nuclear physicists in plasma have been the top 15 leading, they've been for 15 years the top nation in that field. So why not? Because we don't understand, even the British don't understand. I work in nuclear industry in England. Why did we close all the gas power stations? Why there is more research now in England about how to shut down reactors than it was actually to develop them? So nuclear industry is a spectrum. We have to understand everything. It's not exclusive of nations. The nations who make countries like Iran axis of evil because they are producing nuclear technology, which we try to understand, is because they see competition. That's all it is.
Could you talk about the nuclear reprocessing industry? And
no, it's not my field.
Okay, sorry.
I'm in the plasma section.
Okay, I apologize.
Nuclear processing, I understand it. I was taught. I understand the process. I understand what we need to do. Don't forget my specialty or my degree is a reactors technology from Queen Mary College. So I know from the beginning to the end how to design a nuclear reactor, and not theoretically. And this is one of the problems which even the American told me: when you say something, you show it. So I can build things to show, and processing is part of trying to safeguard. And this process of Iran reprocessing is something which you do in England. The only problem is at the moment, nuclear industry during Mrs. Thatcher was cut in 3 pieces. Production of material, production of the stations, and reprocessing. Material went partially mainly to France. Making the systems went to America with Westinghouse and the rest of it, and reprocessing was given to England. And anybody who comes to this area to cut into this market becomes axis of evil. Because they cut into the economy of what they are planning to do for business. Because once the oil industry finishes, or we run short of oil, they presume that we come to nuclear. Nobody ever assumed that technology like what we developed will ever come into the market. I have seen signed document and agreements when I was with British Nuclear, and then I found out, and I left immediately, was that even in that agreement, gas power stations in England were shut down. They were going to be brought down, because from now on, you only can buy PWRs from America. This is an agreement Mrs. Thatcher made with Reagan. And that's why you don't have any nuclear power stations built in England will be PWR. In turn, the processing of material, as we see now from Japan, comes to England to be reprocessed. So Iran becomes axis of evil due to breaking into this cartel of processing, manufacturing, and assembling of the fuel. So Iran has every right, every other nation has every right, the way the Russians and the Chinese are doing. So yes, you have to reprocess, otherwise the material stays dangerous. But with the new technology, you don't need heavy materials. But at the end, we need the heavy material, because if you understand the process of reprocessing, our own human body cannot function without, cesium or cobalt. You live, you divide, the whole function of our body works on the interaction of nuclear materials. Otherwise, it cannot divide. If you don't understand it, I'll tell you something very simple. I see ladies in your audience. If you had a child, if you are pregnant, the first thing the doctor sees you are pregnant and gives you is what? Folic acid. Go in the books, go on the internet, just put what's folic acid. It's a nuclear material to speed up the division of the cell that the child can have a full process. You go and buy it and eat it. You buy B12, go on the internet, put what's B12. It's a radioactive material. You buy to increase the division of the cells in your body. Nuclear science, we don't even understand 1% of it. Doesn't matter on the heavy elements or the plasma. So reprocessing is needed, heavy industry, nuclear is needed, plasma is needed, and this is the way collectively as a human being in the world of science we are developing and going ahead. It cannot become exclusivity of 3 nations. And that's the only reason Iran is acts of evil, because Iran now does not need the supply because it has its own mines. Now they can process their own material, and now they've learned the technique from the Russians and the Americans, which they brought the beginning of the process during the Shah regime, how to make the system. So now they're cutting into to the all 3 nations that tried of the nuclear industry. That's why Iran is acts of evil.
Yeah, I only asked you that question because I read about it on your blog, and you mentioned that.
Yeah. Let's talk about something very easy. Nuclear industry is part of our own lives. It's part of our own existence. We have reprocessing in our body, how we reprocess nuclear material to make them safe. If you don't understand it, I'll explain to you in a very simple way. Our body has a reprocessing of nuclear material. We eat B12, cobalt, to have radioactive material in our body, and radioactive material in our body is like a knife. It cuts to slices to the strength you need. When the knife gets too weak, when the radioactive material is not strong enough to do its function, our body rejects it. There is a point in our intestine, before this few micron, the body absorbs B12. After this few micron in your intestine, the body rejects B12. These are the B12s which are there, but they're not strong enough to create division. So what do you do? When you go to a big toilet, you pass it out, and then in the olden days, because people used to use their excrement as a fertilizer and there was no hygiene, that they use their hand, wash their hand, they used to eat these B12s part of the cleaning themselves. So they used to resupply themselves. So our body works on the same basis as a nuclear reactor. If you understand it, it's the process we need to do. We have to understand the whole structure. If you say it has to be exclusivity and you don't see why it's cobalt used, and it's used in your own body, so what's going to happen with the vegetarians who don't take B12? Now we understand in this place, in our research, why a lot of diseases come with shortage of B12. And that's how we can stop a lot of diseases. And then you tell me reprocessing and the rest. Our body lives on reprocessing nuclear material for us to live. If you stop for 1 second, you will be solid material.
Also, I gather that from your blogs, Iran is a world leader in isotopes in the medical industry in this respect.
Yes, we are. We haven't planned it. This, if you read my website, this happened by accident. This reactor was built for Iran during the Shah's regime as a prototype reactor, a university. Don't forget, we in Queen Mary College, when I was a student, we had our own reactor in the basement of the university. In Iran, it's the same thing. They took, when I finished in the university, they took the reactor to my land, and then it was too dangerous in my land in the center of London, then they dismantled it because it was too dangerous. It was in the basement of nuclear engineering department in the Queen Mary College. These are the same reactor which Iran has. It was put in there for beginning of teaching of nuclear physics during the Shah regime, and this reactor was used and has been used for prototyping. What happened about 4 or 5 years ago, when majority of the isotopes for medical reasons, purposes, was getting manufactured in Canada, the reactor ran into problem. They could not come up with the supply, so Iran took over the supply, the gap in the market. That's how Iran came into it with a reactor which was 3 years ago. So Iran produces isotopes from the systems which was built for us by the British and the Americans. And now it's such a lucrative market that the Europeans are building a system in SCK in Belgium, financed by the German government, to cut into this market again. Because you cannot imagine how lucrative the isotope business is in medical. So, and that's the reason Iran, it just happened to be there by accident.
Okay, fantastic. Let's move on to a few other things. When are we going to see more Keshe technologies for the home? Such as, I gather that you're... Sorry, carry on.
As you know, we would have built all the medical, energy, and the car industry in 2009. We are releasing documents, people can see it. Till the certain people in Belgium decided it's too lucrative for them, I will give it to them or not. As you know, now we are moving to a new position that you will hear a lot about our work in the public domain. In Belgium, they have destroyed our lab processing deliberately, and in Belgium, we are restricted to work because of we are not prepared to buy our officials. So we have moved to a new position, we'll announce very soon, and you will see in a new team, there are about 20 scientists will be all together, that you will see our work, and you will see how we will develop. You will see a lot of things. You will have seen the flying car on 26th of November last year, till the Belgians came in and locked everything up. And exactly 2 weeks ago today, I was going to our lab in Bruges, and we had 8 officers turning up at our lab, threatening my wife, and literally taking everything they from the lab to make sure we cannot develop anymore. But they're so stupid that we already left Belgium. We are here just for a few more days. There are nations who understand what we are doing. There are people who understand what we're doing and supporting us thoroughly.
Okay, well, I suppose sorry to hear that. Let me see what else. If we go back to, I think I've jumped ahead to what I was going to ask you. I want to go on to now, because we're running out of time, to talk about something that I wanted to talk. Sorry, 1 second. I was going to talk about something else. Going back to the human body, according to Keshe technology, how do you perceive the human body? And I had a quote from Richard Dawkins, which essentially said that we are lumbering robots. Do you see nature...
No, we are a galaxy. Operation of our body, that's why we emphasize so much on our medical side. The operation of a human body is exactly the same as operation of a galaxy. There is no difference in it. You do not get our solar system with Earth and all the planetary on it in the center of the galaxy, because it has a certain position, and the same way you don't see your finger on your head and you don't see your brain in the middle of your toe. If you understand there is a gravitational magnetic positioning in respect to everything, then you understand you treat the body like a galaxy, and then it's easy to understand what's the relationship between the parts. We treat the body exactly like a galaxy. We don't need to spend billions to go to space, because what we want to learn in space about positioning and motion, we apply it in our systems in the medical, we get the answer.
If we talk about going back to particles, do you see particles and matter as being sentient? And what is memory exactly?
Memory is, in a way, a non-dimensional magnetic gravitational field. You hold on and you lock it into certain places within the structure. We are doing some research on this at the moment with Alzheimer's, and we can hopefully release some papers about this in the near future, where you can even help the body to move a memory from one part of the body to another and still carry on with the same function. What this means, when we had a coma patient, we realized through the process of the coma that the patient was paralyzed through the accident, and we moved the working of the brain into a different location, and now she's alive and she uses all her arms and legs the way as normal, where the doctors could not even see the paralysis when she was in a coma. So we are learning more. Memory is part of the structure of being boxed into certain place. It's like a cup and a water in it. We just use the same water and position in different cups.
And what is telepathy then?
That's something I haven't done much work on it.
Okay.
But I understand it.
What is your understanding of it? What is your opinion?
Telepathy, I tell you what telepathy, I can explain it in a very nice way. You walk down the street and you see the most beautiful women, and the women walk down the street and see the most beautiful men. We don't fall in love with everyone we pass. We fall in love with a specific woman, with a certain person. The same thing is like telepathy. Our magnetic gravitational field of our brain interacts with something which is the same length, or we tune into the same length, so we receive the information. How you fall in love with a woman on the street is her body, her heart, creates, because of its dynamism and the plasma, which is the blood, certain gravitational magnetic field. And when that gravitational magnetic field matches yours, it's exactly like the two magnets. Yeah? So, for the first time in the paper, I even explain how you fall in love. Why don't we fall in love with our heart, not with our mind? Because it's a physicality of the fields of matching strength. So, if you find a woman or a man, which has now become fashionable to, gay marriages and everything else, it's just that your body creates certain gravitational magnetic field that matches with the other side. So you fall in love with that we fall in love with her. To prove this, we have commissioned, and the system has been built for us in Switzerland very recently, where we can measure magnetic fields in three-dimensional. And this was a long process because they had to rent MRI medical system during the night time, and the hospital was not using it to actually do this three-dimensional magnetic field system. You can buy it all over the world, but this was specifically made for us the way we wanted it. So maybe we can one day measure when two people are in love, in between them, what goes on. We can measure it. It's a physicality.
My next question, according to Keshe technology, what is the soul?
Read my book number 9. It's partially written. The soul, the body in its dimension. I'm going to give you an example because you have to see parallel. In the world of science, if you don't understand one, you go to the other one. You have a proton and you have an electron. The electron is there to catch what is not, or what is left by or released by the proton. And in turn, it gives it enough to be connected to the proton itself. The soul is the electron, and the body is the physicality of the proton. But the soul is not tangible because it's not tangibility to it. It's a collection of fields, and I explained this very recently in one of my talks. If you understand that your soul is your other half but non-tangible side, how you can affect and process matters without tangibility of your body.
And finally, if there was no Big Bang, is there... There was no Big Bang?
No way.
Oh, and so, first of all, what was there, and is there room for a creator in your worldview?
Big Bang is somebody who never understood physics. Whoever came up with this beautiful word, he needs a Big Bang in his head. The reason being, in the world of nuclear technology, we say a neutron, when it cannot create a balanced gravitational magnetic field, it splits into two different plasmas, a proton and electron. So it divides. To keep to its total integrity of the whole process, it divides itself in two halves. So a neutron becomes electron and a proton. In that process, we don't hear a Big Bang. It doesn't go bang, bang. It happens all the time in our bodies. So it should be a huge machine now walking around with Big Bangs in our body. It's actually like, it's like a hole in the puncture in a car. So Big Bang doesn't exist. In a way, our universe was created from the division of a bigger universe which could not hold on to its total integrals of gravitational magnetic field. It has divided to what we are. It can be seen in the W map very clearly. If you understand the way we understand physics, you can see the exact direction of the blow. So there was no Big Bang. Big Bang was a very good thing for a guy who wanted to sell some books. And some people couldn't understand more, they accepted it. So it's the same as with the guy who came up with the black hole theory that nothing comes out of the black hole. And then he lost his shirt once he read my paper. I wonder when Professor Hawking is going to come and sue me, because I've shown him, he has taken my paper, he changed his mind the day I received the paper from the Astronomical Society in England on the 8th of July, and funny enough, we published the paper in the book. So these people who come up with these things, they have no concept of physics. As I say, bookkeepers should have stayed bookkeepers, and the people who don't understand physics should have kept their mouth shut.
Thank you. I just want to ask you that final question. What is the creator, if there is one?
The creator is us, and we are part of it, and he is part of us. Because if you understand, I just explained, in the division of the neutron, then you understand it cannot be anything outside but what is us. We are part of it, and it's part of us, because it comes through the division. It's not a physicality, because as you know, in the space technology we are very advanced, and we have said it and we confirm it, that we are not the only creatures of this universe. So the creation is a natural process in different forms, but from the beginning it comes that we are part of its creator.
So there are, in your view, definitely sentient beings on other...
No, don't ask my point
Okay.
of view. It's a fact.
Thank you. Mr. Keshe, thank you very much. Now questions.
Is there any questions from your
Right.
auditorium?
Does anyone want to ask a question? Okay, shall I? I'll let you do it. Yeah, just this gentleman there. Yeah, just coming.
Mr. Keshe, thank you so much for all you're doing. It's amazing work, and our whole group, we're also trying to create clean energy sources. We love you, and we're very grateful for all you're trying to do for everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I was just wondering, a member in our group who was following your work closely told us that you had some power units that were making power cleanly ready, and they were going to be distributed in December. And we were all looking really forwards to hearing what happened there.
You are going to receive it, what we've done. It's just that we were blocked, as you know, through what they call... Actually, I'll tell you who blocked us. It's very strange. Do you know who wrote the documents to block us from doing it? This man, just let me ask my colleague, I'll give you the name. What's his name? No, the man from the head of control of nuclear in Belgium. Mr. Willy de Rover, you just go on the internet, put his name in. This gentleman knew that the nuclear reactors in Belgium have cracked in it 20 years ago, and he signed them and commissioned them into work. And then, the same guy now has been the head of the safety of the Belgian nuclear industry. And this guy says to me, I'm not safe enough to run the plasma. They tested my lab, they could find no contamination, no radiation, and the lab has been running for 7 years. So it's just the people, if you would have given our technology to the people in the structure of the Belgian government, you would have had all our reactors 10 years ago. Because, funny enough, the company who did the physical feasibility study on the reactors in 2004, they are bought by the British Ministry of Defense. They bought the company because they knew we were collaborating and the technology was correct to replicate the reactor. The only thing they never understood, I never gave to these people in Belgium, is I never gave them the ignition key. And without the ignition key, they proved everything is correct. They knew what the ignition key will do. And this is the only acquisition done by the Ministry of Defense, the British Ministry of Defense, outside British territory. Because they wanted to get access to this technology, because I can even read you a piece of paper of it. Just give me 1 second. This paper, this report, is dated 25th of 4, 2005. That they say they are ready to develop the first project, atomic fusion with Keshe Foundation for magnetic gravitational system. This is the copy of it, you can see. The British government has paid 10 million to buy this company, to get the ignition key. Just go in 2004, 2005, you know which company is. This is a Belgian company. The whole process is that it's been well studied, well tested. We were analyzed by the scientists in the Brussels University for 7 months before they issued a paper to say the production of energy and motion is feasibly possible. Something I'm going to show you before that you understand how easy it is to create energy. If you take a position like this is the ring, magnetic ring, and if you can put 3 or 4 of them the same, I try to do it because my people say people can't see properly. And if I take a very small or very big magnet, you will see it, I show it always. If I change, you will see that you do not need any energy to move without burning any fuel. You create the right position, and that's all we do. We create the right magnetic gravitational field, and then if you want a 10 watts or 10 kilowatt, it depends where you want to be in that plasma. System doesn't cost that much, but now it will be very available now that we have gone into collaboration and cooperation with the companies outside Belgium. You will see a lot of things which we are doing, the same as our medical.
Okay, if you need any help to get it places, we know some big old families who, like private industry tends to work a bit quicker than governments.
Yeah, but they're more cropped. We had them here.
Okay, good. Well, thank you so much.
Anybody else?
I tell you something which is something very strange. In the present world of physics, you're all in university, Imperial College, has become fashionable to what we call God particles. And we heard a lot about it last year, that they spent billions to see the God particles. And I was writing the 4th book in a cafe where I usually hide and write my books. And this woman came to me and says, "Can we sit down and talk to you, Mr. Keshe?" I said, "Yes." And I was told she's the Queen of Belgium. And with her was the King of Belgium. So we sat down with a coffee, and apparently a lady was an artist taking pictures of it. We're going to release it very soon. And in the discussion having coffee with the King of Belgium, he said to me, "What do you think about these bosons and God particles?" I said to him, "Your Majesty, the people who talk about God particles, they haven't understood a single thing about physics. Because if you understand that the stronger magnetic field reduces in strength, that when it's weak enough becomes matter tangible and detectable by us, then Your Majesty and me, we are all both God particles. And he said this makes sense. The thing is, we physicists make physics so difficult to show that we are intelligent, and that's the problem with the physics. If you are very humble and down to the ground and we can explain it in a simple way, then you understand physics, the way the universe works, is understandable by the child of 7. You don't need to have a PhD or to be a professor.
Hello, Mr. Keshe.
Yes.
Thank you for spending time with us. I just got a question about the health technology, and that is how you create the magnetic fields to reverse the disease.
We don't create magnetic field. We create measure of the plasma of gravitational and magnetic field. This is the breakthrough. A cell has both. Let me show you. I showed you this four elements, so 4 magnets, yeah? These 4 magnets represent a lot. You put oxygen, let's call this is, the center is oxygen, one is a nitrogen, one is a carbon, and one is a hydrogen, yeah? So you get stressed, you lose a father, you lose a child, yeah? You get stressed. What happens? You create a field, both gravitational and magnetic field, and see what happens. A small magnet makes change in position. This was a healthy, a new position, attracts different materials to it because now it's different gravitational magnetic field. Voila, you got cancer. So to change diseases from now on, we have to understand both the strength of the gravity and the strength of the magnetic field. Then you understand the strength of magnetic field of a plasma, of a cancer. You create the reverse of it, and you understand, you make the brain to understand how the reverse is done. Then the body gets rid of the cancer itself. We have to understand the interaction of fields, both magnetic and gravitational, on an atomic level, on a molecular level, and a matter level, when it's piece of, let's say, cancer. Then you understand what we do is not magic. What I do at the moment and what I show in the health, people think is magic. In about 5 years' time, it will be as normal as you go to the corner shop and you buy aspirin. Because it's much easier, because we understand it's part of our own structure.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? That's it.
Thank you very much, and thank you for a very interesting talk. I'd like to take you back to the science that you talked about at the beginning, and I'm not quite sure still with regards to your flow analogy for the attraction and repulsion, which I would understand for the magnetic fields and so on, but with gravity, as far as I know, there isn't a polarity, so you don't have a negative and positive. So with gravity, it's always attracting.
No.
Okay.
Let me put you right.
Thank you.
In a magnet, you have polarity, north and south, or entry and exit. You have the same with a plasma. Plasma has the same. Sun is a plasma, has polarity. What is the polarity? Polarity is what you call the exit and the entry. And as the material loses its field, as the magnetic field which come out lose their magnetic gravitational field strength, they get more attracted and they bend back into the matter, call it the sun. As the sun creates certain levels of magnetic field strength of the field which is going through it, so the field attracts a little bit more and it comes out stronger or with more of the same. So a plasma operates with polarity, entry and exit. So part of the fields interact to the north side, part to the south side, you call it, what we call entry and exit. So they create a pull and a push. Pull, the attraction, gravitation. Push is what we call the atmosphere, magnetic field, or protection. And that is as simple as solid magnet, but in a three-dimensional.
Thank you.
Anybody else on that side? Yep, gentleman right behind.
Good evening, Mr. Keshe. So first I have to say that I'm very, very happy to hear what you said, because since I'm 15 years old, when I was in high school, I told to my teachers that the cosmological models that they have couldn't be right, because if they have only gravity as an attractor of a, let's say, a convergent wave or attracting, it should be to have a stable orbitals, something repulsive or something like that. And I get, 20 or 20, a lot of stuff, but I say at some point this model is crap. And, as usual, they told me that you are, And then you explain that the conception of the plasma, if I understand, is that it somewhere is a boundary between the magnetic field and a gravitational thing. It's something where the gravitational and magnetic collide or get together and create something that we call plasma. And I would like to rephrase that for me a little bit. And the second question that I will have for you is that I totally agree with you with the approach of health, because at some point when I was 16, 1 year after my gravitational encounter with the reality, I studied a little bit about microwave. And I say that microwave basically is they move the molecule together. And at some point I say that what is health is not motion, a motion of molecule in the body. So instead of to use chemical reaction as we usually do it, which is basically a chemical reaction, is you have electron couple get together. Why not to use the essential, which is a motion, which is by waves? And by the idea of studying microwave, I say that we could, by creating the proper magnetic field with the proper frequency, have something to have a better health for people. So I would like you to give me a point of view about that. And now we can change the way of physics as is pursued nowadays and taught at school.
First of all, to change, to understand the way I work, or the way I understand, if you really define very simply certain things in physics, we are not far from the traditional physics. We have built on top of the present knowledge. We haven't brought something new, or we added something new to it because we understand more. If you redefine energy as a magnetic field in motion, then you understand why they call it the dark energy. Dark energy is because the magnetic fields are in motion, both gravitational and magnetic field, from the sun to the earth. So now they call it the dark energy. Dark energy is magnetic fields in motion. Then it comes to the other point of what we call, in a very simple way, the understanding of frequency. Frequency is an attribute of matter. In plasma, we don't have a frequency. Frequency comes into operation when something has to go through something, when you have a matter. In plasma, frequency doesn't exist. So we don't work with this kind of mentality, and when you redefine these 2 points in the way they are actually happens in the universe, then I've answered all your questions in one simple way. Understand the way the universe works, not the way we would like it to work. The problem with the man, the habit of man, is he gets so involved in his own false knowledge that he has to protect it. So they even kill for it because then it doesn't show that they're stupid.
Could I ask the next person to ask a question, limited to 2 minutes, please? Anybody on this side? Yep, this gentleman there.
Hi, Mr. Keshe.
Yes.
Thanks again, as everybody else said, for your time and for your very, very interesting work. Just a quick one. Your peace treaty, the 4 documents on your website, fantastic concept, and I hope many, many people read it and agree with it. I think a huge part of the human population is desperate for change. I think your technology is offering hope for this change. How do you react to people on your forum and people I talk to who would like to see more examples of the technology that you're offering? Because I think there's a lot of skepticism built over centuries. And how can you help people like myself who are not technical at all, no idea, to bring your message to the people we know? I mean, your whole drive is let everybody know about this and let people grow with this. For myself, I would like more support from your side or from the Keshe Foundation.
Let me explain something very simple to you. I lived in England for nearly 29 years. I never felt the pain of racism. In Belgium, the only problem we have with this nation is the color of my skin. It's so bad that it's coming even to my child, who's half Belgian. That if you go on the press last month in Belgium, they put his picture on because he was tortured so much in the school because he's half Iranian in the school. They wanted him out of the school. If you understand that, then you understand on the work condition. I have worked here for 9 years, 8 years. We were trapped here. We are literally trapped by governments that they could silence us. But we work with a team of people who are devoted to serve humanity, and they made sure this thing goes through. So you tell me about the peace treaty. I tell you one thing, it's you who have to make that peace with yourself, then you can do with the rest of it. And it's very simple. The peace treaty has already sit in the White House today. The peace treaty will be in the hand of His Excellency President Ahmadinejad tomorrow or this week. The peace treaty is and will be in the hand of His Eminence the Pope within a matter of days. As we said with our USB stick key, we give the knowledge to every nation. What they do with it is theirs, their responsibility. This peace treaty is the same. Sooner or later, it will happen. And the way we see it, there are a lot of moves. Don't forget, it's only 7 days old, this peace treaty, 8 days old. And there are moves, and I see, and the complication with me, some nations are fighting who's going to hold the 21st of April peace treaty internationally. They say it doesn't matter if our leaders on the 21st of March don't sign, we will sign into it. What does it bring? This peace treaty has brought people who believe in science can change. The problem with Keshe Foundation is for the first time, with an organization like us, we are not talkers. Not only we talk about the peace, but we have the technology and the tool to enforce it. This is the beauty of what we do. When I came back from Iran with the invitation of His Excellency President Ahmadinejad to develop the Iranian spaceship program in 2008, when I announced that Iran has a full spaceship program on 2009, everybody laughed at me. They said the guy is crazy. Last year, the Iranian leaders, they said they have a spaceship program, and they've shown the power of it by capturing the American drone. I explained to the American officials when I handed the key to them, for the first time they understood how they lost their plane. because you don't need to spend a single gram of fuel. It was a clean-cut capture, and that was it. That was the end of it. But what has it brought? Now, the most advanced space, what they call it, military technologies has become obsolete. Are you going to pay 20, 30 million to buy a F-18, which can be dismantled from thousands of kilometers by a system which costs less than $100? No. So we've seen how the force, we saw the power of it, we still see it. They stopped us on 25th of November last year to show the technology in public. They came and they sealed and they confiscated everything from us. And the following Saturday, on the 3rd of December, we showed the reactors in public in Belgium for the first time. And I said, for what you did to us last week, blocking us to show, Iran will show the power of this technology very soon. On the 4th, the following day, the American plane was captured. And they said, oh, it's a lot of talk. But I'll give you the date. Go on the internet, 3rd of December, on the anniversary of us announcing how the power of this technology is going to be shown, a second plane was captured again. The dates are not coincidence. And as you understand, as I see, I've been told when I was interviewed last week, world leaders are saying who's going to start talking about the space program, the spaceship program, because governments have this technology. Up to now, they didn't know how to run it. Now they know how to run it. But the beauty of it is, this technology has been the cause of even talking peace. Please read not between the line, but the reality of what has happened. On 3rd of December, on the anniversary of our announcing the development of the spaceship program, you had a second capture. We gave the key of the space technology by the request of the American government, His Excellency President Obama, on the 15th of November to the Americans. On the 2nd of December, exactly 6 weeks ago, 2 weeks after we gave the key, an American private jet landed in Ahvaz airport, crashed, damaged. It was announced by the Iranians that the American plane was on the runway for 2 weeks and it's getting repaired by the Americans. And they announced that the passengers of this American plane were immediately transferred to Dubai. And that day is exactly from the day when Mrs. Hillary Clinton disappeared from political view till last week due to hemorrhage. Peace talk has already started in a very deep way. It's just who's going to lose face. And the peace treaty we put out is don't let nobody lose face. We all talk because you already have started talking. Because the Americans realize that their most advanced technology, military technology, worth nothing anymore. If you see, you talk about the peace, we talk about exactly what this technology has brought. Since Yugoslavia war, we saw bombardments on the high altitude, destroy as much as you can before you go and rob a nation. We saw it in Libya too. It hasn't happened in Syria because Iranian spaceship program is protecting the aerospace and it's shown in some videos you can see. So they has stopped the invasion, it has stopped the attack of what was expected of Israelis on Iran because the information is available, you can check yourself. This technology has already enforcing peace. All we done with the peace treaty, we put it in front of their nose. Now you can come and at least you have an excuse to talk about peace the correct way. As I wrote to the American government and the Iranians and the Israelis, if the United Nations is too far to go to talk peace, Keshe Foundation is halfway in Brussels. We can all meet. The way all the ambassadors met here twice in the past 12 months. Ambassadors come here, we get ambassadors right across this table where I'm sitting. They come, they ask, what's the next step, what can we do? This weekend I'm meeting and having lunch with the ambassadors in the next step of the peace treaty for Africa. We are meeting the following week with another bunch of ambassadors. Work is getting done but it's just a matter of who's going to lose face. I prefer it to be Keshe Foundation than the world leaders. At least they have an excuse. They have no reason. There is no reason. What we say about the Keshe Peace Treaty is because it's already been implemented. It's already in motion. You ask the Americans, where did Miss Hillary Clinton disappear on the 2nd of December? I was there at the airport when the plane by accident crashed. They were so involved with the security that they jumped the gun. And if Iran is such a big enemy, why allows the Americans to come and repair the aircraft in Ahvaz runway for 3 or 4 weeks and immediately flies all the passengers to Dubai? They would have made a big case out of it because this was a point where the meeting was supposed to happen. And by accident, the things didn't happen. There are rumors who was in the airport ready. The political position, what we talk about, is what the governments are shying away from because they don't want to lose face. We put it on the paper. Now is the next step. You will watch what's going to happen within the next 2 to 3 months. I see it. I've met with the leaders. I've met with ambassadors. I've met with the presidents. And it's happening. We don't talk anymore. Now, the peace treaty is in black and white, in the hand of American ambassador, in the hand of President Obama. I even suggested to the Iranians and to the Americans, let's sit down and sign both together. Let President Obama, His Excellency Obama, and President Ahmadinejad sign each other's favor as witness. Because this treaty has 2 sections. What you sign physically and somebody witness it. I signed it last week in Italy, and a public notary and a member of parliament that was present witnessed it. So let the 2 so-called enemies which they meet in the airports in long distances that nobody knows, talk peace, sit down and sign the paper together and will become the witness on them. The process is not what we are talking. There is a lot of work is going in the background. So we don't listen to what goes on the internet. We don't listen to what people put on the forum. We put on the forum the peace treaty for people to be ready to accept what is about to come. We have no chance. We have no choice. The latest aircrafts manufactured by man is worth nothing with the new technology. And the new technology should not become another tool for killing and destroying. So it's a good beginning to start at least living in peace.
Next question, anybody?
Mr. Keshe, good evening. Thank you very much for your valuable work and your time that you have given us tonight. I've got a couple of questions. One of them is, what will happen, or what is your next step should this peace treaty go in a wrong direction? And in a way, if the powers, the elite who, maybe not just the presidents or the officials in the government, the power who controls, who are behind, they actually want to control your technology through the USB stick that you have already given to the prospective governments. What will happen then? What's the next step? That's one of my first questions.
By the eventuality of this peace treaty and the people you talk to be the power to be, or the powers who control things in the background, they have never calculated 2 things. The gentleman who's behind a lot of these things, which you see sitting right in front of me, on the other side of the camera, we work together. He is a Belgian, Mr. Dirk Lorentzens, and I told him from the beginning, I don't want to put patents in, but he convinced me to put patents in. And then I studied the work of the patents. I thought this is the easiest way for me to give my knowledge to the world. So I studied the technique of patents. You can put a patent out, you pay for 3 sessions, 3 years, and then it gets public so everybody has it, so nobody can patent anymore about gravity and magnetic field. And then we published the books, again by him, because when I came back from Iran in 2008 after developing the spaceship program, being a stupid scientist the way we are usually, I got too close to my system and I got cancer in pancreas and liver. So Mr. Lorentzens told me, you better write your things down because there was a very high chance of death. So we use our own technology to reverse it. we still, after 5 years, we see the lesions of cancer. So I wrote the books. And the funny thing is, I wrote so many books and papers, and I gave so many lectures on so many papers, that the knowledge is not in the hand of the powers used to be. Because a handful of people I saw last week in Italy, they built the system. There are Americans who are building the system. UCLA scientists tried it 4 or 5 years ago. The uranium physicists are doing it. The Chinese are at it. Everybody else is doing it. So the power to be have two choices. They become part of us, or they have no choice. There's the end for it, because once you start building new systems, you build it for your neighbor or anything else. It's the way we run the Keshe Foundation now. The Keshe Foundation subsidiaries now work on a very simple base. You cannot export the technology to no other nation. And if you do, because the other nations don't have the capability of, you can only make 5%. It's written in our mandate in our companies now. So you cannot become Saudi Arabia the second to milk everything in. 5% is the maximum you're allowed to make with what you export, and whatever profit is made in the country, we spend back on the people in the nation. So the wealth of the nation stays within each nation. This is the ethos of Keshe Foundation, and it's taken me 4 weeks now to negotiate it to be in the mandate of our companies. And what we've done with the new companies is very simple. Keshe Foundation shares are priceless and cannot be sold. So in the future, nobody can sell the asset of the nation. So in England, you produce your systems, it becomes yours. So there is no hierarchy, there is no powers to be. My patents are in public. Get out, read it the way I wrote it, not the way of the old science. You can make a copy tomorrow morning. Then you understand, now people control the power and people control their own destiny from the water, from the food, from the health, from the energy and the space. So it's you who limits yourself, not me. I've given you everything I have.
God bless.
Let's take one final question. Who would like to make
one more question? Sorry, my apology.
Okay.
I have 2 questions. This is a bit of a personal level. Sorry. I have come to read a few months ago in your forum that you've had a patient who had a smelling problem where he couldn't smell at all, and you developed a system.
Yes, it's a patient with a coma and a Parkinson. Yes, we know how it's done, yes.
I just wondered, can one purchase that system where you could reverse that smelling sense?
Process. Yes, it can be done. It is very simple. The change of the smell, first of all, understand the physics behind it. Odor, smell, is a gas in a diamond structure. That's why a smell can expand to take from one room to another, from one area to another. Odor, smell, is gas in the diamond structure. Carbon in a non-diagonal structure is what you write with and what is a brush on a motor. Diamond in a diamond structure is what women love. We call it diamond, they wear it. Gas in a diamond structure is odor, is a smell. And how you squeeze it creates different smells. Then, in the forehead of your body, right in front of your head, between your 2 eyes, there is a very small bone which controls this pressure of the gas and dictates what you smell. When you lose your smell, this bone moves. And up to now, we did not know how to bring balance to it. Now we developed a technology which can bring balance to the bone, the tiny bone in the middle, and then you can smell everything. It's understanding the root of the physics. So, if you understand, smell is a what do you call it, a diamond structure of a gas, then you even understand why when some people eat too much certain food, they release too many smelly gases, because their body changes the crystal pressure and it ends up. So we understand the whole process in the structure body. You have to understand how this bone in your forehead has moved, and then you can organize it to go back to normal. And it takes time, and body gets used to it, and you get it back.
Final question from someone.
Oh, hello, Mr. Keshe. Thank you very much for your idea. I'm very kind of amazed what you're talking about. I would like to believe in what you're saying.
You don't need, you just, if you can smell, I'm correct.
Sorry, I've got a different question. A few days ago, there was a Iranian launched this rocket with the monkey on it and safely brought it back. And I just wonder whether...
Let me say something. I knew this about a year ago, 2 years ago in Tehran. This is about to happen. We were fully aware of it.
So did they use your technology, or why they why they use the rocket technology instead of yours if they have it already?
No. This exactly goes back why do we have a heavy nuclear and we have a plasma nuclear. We have to understand the full structure in a weightlessness and in a weight condition. NASA is doing the same. NASA did this in 1950s. The monkeys. So we in Iran, they won't give us any information, so we're gathering it ourselves. And it's our right to do, because if you go on the Keshe Foundation Space.com, we say if you want to have weightlessness in the space, you have to pay for it because it costs money to create the weightlessness. In the space, the way you use natural systems the way we do, you always travel at a 1G gravity. So yes, it had to be done. Still, there is more to happen. Because if something happens in the space and you have to go out, we have to know what is happening with your body in the space weightlessness. So this is part of the progress. And secondly, Iranian spaceship program has no connection with the Iranian space program. The space program is different university. I was invited by them last January to give a lecture in Tehran in the Space University. And the spaceship program is totally different. They don't interfere. They have nothing to do. Iran has 3 levels of the space program: the spaceship, the space program, and what they call their space system, which they work totally independent and they've got nothing to do with each other. And it's a correct way to do it, because then they find out different environments of work.
Mr. Keshe, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for your time.
Good night. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you indeed. Thank you. Bye.
Good night.